Hello, my name is Lesley Atherton and this is my short story called Intruder. It was small and cluttered. Every time she moved, she bumped into yet another cumbersome, misplaced and unwanted item stored pointlessly there in the shed because of some inherent and nagging fear that getting rid of it would lead to disaster, and that an urgent use for it would be found the very next day. Oddly though, each item she banged her knees or toes on held unexpected memories. The old white powder-coated metal bedhead with floral ceramic decoration was beautiful indeed. How she had loved that bedhead. She'd even held on to it screaming while giving birth to her second child, and had hung handmade Christmas baubles over its rails during the festive season. God, how she knocked her head constantly against those baubles, yet still refused to remove them. How erratic and stubborn she used to be. She stumbled onto something hard yet fleshy on the floor, a broken padded coat hanger. Her grandmother's best jacket had always been carefully and respectfully placed on that hanger, and she picked it up, replacing it on its wall hook. The coat hanger had been handmade, then softened and covered with a blue floral fabric, old-fashioned and musty-smelling, yet still fresh and vibrant in colour. She could see her grandmother now, eccentrically sporting two long plaits that framed her face. Yet she was still a product of her era. Waste not, want not, make do and mend, respect and care for what you own. The coat had lasted just as long as the coat hanger, her granddaughter mused. It was now in patchwork pieces, all sewn together with great love to make a bed cover for Rusty, the dog she'd inherited when her grandmother died. It was right that it should be used that way. Grabbing for the light switch, inconveniently situated at the rear of the shed, she yanked it on and immediately wished she hadn't. It seemed such a large construction from the outside, yet was a TARDIS in reverse, appearing minuscule as soon as one opened the door. Inevitable, she knew, given all its clutter. And that was her mission today. Clear the clutter and re-establish the shed as storage space for useful garden things, not as a temporary holding area for the local refuse tip. To be honest, at this point in the proceedings, simply finding some clear floor space on which to place her feet would be an achievement. "Shush, Rusty," she shouted out at the little dog that was being unusually noisy in the house. That's all I need, she thought, as she reached for a bottle of beer. It was thirsty work, and she had no intention of completing such a revolting task without the assistance of an alcoholic beverage. 3 bottles should do it. Rusty continued the barking. "Give it a break," she shouted. "I haven't even got started yet." But as she shouted, Rusty gave a loud yelp and whimper. "Oh my God," she thought. "Rusty, where are you?" Falling over piles of mouldy cardboard boxes and an old tin bath, restored with black dimpled hammerite, she virtually fell out of the shed's doorway. "Where are you, Rusty?" she shouted, louder this time. Nothing. But a large noise, a burglar alarm, pierced the quiet of the day. It was her burglar alarm. Oh no, she thought, someone's broken in and hurt Rusty. She grabbed the first thing she could find, a large and heavy spade, and happily realised she had a pruning knife in her pockets, hidden just in case. She ran to the house, screaming, "You get away from here, you leave my dog alone!" And then the smoke alarm started. Soon she was inside the house, and wispy smoke was sneaking round the frame of the kitchen door. Poor Rusty was trapped in the hallway. The breeze from the open windows must have slammed the kitchen door shut. "Rusty, Rusty," she called, running to the door. She opened it, and there was Rusty, head bloody and coughing, lethargic and suffering, but very much alive. She lifted him and his coat blanket off the floor and ran outside, clutching him to her heart, yet remembering to close the door behind her. She laid her grandma's best friend on the lawn. He was still and silent and panting now. His eyes were glazed and flickering as if in a dream, but she thought he was going to be okay. Knowing this, she ran straight to the kitchen again, picked up the spade and braved the door to the hall. The smoke was thickening, but even worse than that was the noise from the alarms. She deactivated both and was able to think. Peace and silence, that was better. The poor dog must have been deafened. When alone, Rusty wasn't allowed anywhere in the house other than the hallway and kitchen. She wasn't mean, he just couldn't be trusted. Her grandma had let him get away without training, and he was too old to learn now. That was the reason why she always set the burglar alarm zones to emit the hall and kitchen, and settled his comfy warm basket close to the boiler. So, was there an intruder? The prospect was terrifying. She'd never had a break-in before, and already felt violated at the prospect. And more importantly, where was the smoke coming from? There were no signs or sounds of activity she could see, thank goodness. She crept upstairs, still hearing nothing. Then it came to her what had happened. Rusty must have scrabbled his way over the stair gate and then bounced mindlessly upstairs, set off the alarm and jumped down again in fear. He must have tried to get over the stair gate, and there was no way he could have done that without hurting himself on the way down. To her relief, these parts of the jigsaw seemed obvious now she had the chance to think. There were dog footprints on the wall, patches of blood on the stairs, scratched wallpaper, and a dog poo at the top of the stairs. The poor lamb must have evacuated in his fear at hearing the alarm. And now she could also work out why the smoke alarm had been set off. It was directly above 2 scented candles she had lit earlier, and in Rusty's panic the old dog had knocked one into a metal bin. Thank goodness it was metal, and only held a now smouldering magazine. How silly. She would have to learn from that recklessness. No unsupervised lighted candles any more. She'd had a lucky escape. She went back to the garden with heart still pounding, and comforted the dog, who by this time was walking around the garden in an agitated manner. He wasn't looking for his usual bees to sniff. He clearly wanted to return to the house. She was confused by this, but he'd have to stay out here for now, at least until the smoke had cleared. No matter how much he whined to get back in, it was for the best that he stayed out here and cleared his lungs. All was well, and she wandered back to the shed again with a great sense of relief. Her first swig of beer would be most welcome. And upstairs, hidden in the landing's airing cupboard, the intruder smirked quietly to himself. He was warm and dry, and would wait as long as it took.